An overseas company came for a recruitment drive at XYZ Engineering College in the month of August 2021. In the first phase, a 90-minute written test was conducted, which included quantitative ability, verbal ability, and a technical subject. The maximum marks in the written test were 120. Based on the scores in the written test, 8 candidates were shortlisted for the final technical interview in the second phase. None of the 8 candidates got the same score in the written test. The scores of the 8 candidates were in arithmetic progression, and only 2 candidates scored above 100 in the written test. The 8 candidates that were selected were P, N, S, C, K, B, K, Y. Among them, there were 4 mechanical engineers, 2 electrical, 1 civil, 1 computer engineer, not necessarily in the given order. All the interviews were conducted on the same day. The interview started at 9 a.m. in the morning and finished at 1 p.m. Each interview lasted for exactly 30 minutes. The following additional facts are also known. Bharat is a mechanical engineer who scored 88 in the written test. Naira, who scored 83 in the written test, was interviewed at 10:30 a.m. Yanvi is a civil engineer who scored more than 100 but did not get the highest marks in the written test. Piku is an electrical engineer who was interviewed at 11:30. None of the mechanical engineers were interviewed at 9. S, a computer engineer, was interviewed after 10:30. One mechanical engineer was interviewed at 10 and had scored 78 in the written test. C, an electrical engineer who was interviewed after Naira but before CP, scored 93 in the written test. K scored the highest marks in the written test and K after C. So going about this particular set, we realize that there are certain attributes. The attributes are the time slot in which they were interviewed, the name of the candidates, the branch to which they belong, and the marks that they scored, right? So we know about the timeline-based questions, that the column or the row, whichever is the primary one, that should be our timeline, as in the duration of the interview and the time at which the interviews are connected. That should be the one that we should fill first of all. Also about the scores, they were in AP and only 2 of them got more than 100. So that will help us to a certain extent because we do see in the additional statement some of the scores. So in order to solve this, we will have to first of all fill the time. So since the interview started at 9 and finished at 1, so it started at 9, the next interview started at 9:30, next interview started at 10, it should be 10. The next one started at 10:30, the next one started at 11, the next one at 11:30, the next one at 12 noon, and the final one was 12:30, and the interviews were conducted by 1 p.m. So this is the first thing that we can come up with. Okay, let's find out the scores because they are in AP, right? So right now we can see the scores as 88, 83. So let's write them down, 88, 83. And the next score that we can see is 78. The next score we can see is 93, right? So these are in AP. How can they be in AP? So if I sort them, this is 78, then we can have 83, then we can have 88, then we can have 93. So if these are, let's say, 4 consecutive terms of an AP, so they look like the common difference is 5, right? And if these are not consecutive terms, then we can only divide the common difference 5 as if all the consecutive numbers were written. But if I write all the consecutive numbers from 78 to 93, we will definitely have more than 8 candidates and 8 scores then. So now we are pretty sure that these are 5 consecutive numbers of 4 consecutive numbers of an AP. So the next one should be 98. And since we have only 2 people who scored more than 100, we can have 103 and 108. So these are a total of 7. That means one student must have got 73. So these are the 8 scores. Okay. Let's look at the additional statements now. First statement, Bharat is a mechanical engineer who scored 88 in the written test. We have no idea where to put him. Statement B, Naira, who scored 83 in the written test, was interviewed at 10:30. So this is Naira. Do we have only one person whose name starts with N? Yes. And this person scored 83. So let's write down the score of Naira. We're done with statement B. Looking at C, Yanvi is a civil engineer, did not score more than 100. So there are a lot of possibilities. Who scored more than 100 but did not get the highest marks. So we definitely right now know that Yanvi got 103, but we can't fill it anywhere. Next is Piku is an electrical engineer who was interviewed at 11:30. Okay, so this is going to help us to a certain extent. Excuse me. Do we have anybody with the same initials? No. P is unique. And electrical engineer. So let's write down electrical EL engineer. So let's write down only EL. I think that will be good enough. So electrical engineer. Next, if you look at E, none of the mechanical engineers were interviewed at 9. Nothing good. It's not going to help. S was interviewed at after 10:30. So S can be interviewed at 3 places, and S is a computer engineer. We don't know where to put. So F is not going to help. G, one mechanical engineer was interviewed at 10. So at 10, we had a mechanical engineer. We have an electrical engineer here. And this person had scored 78 in the written test. So the score is 78. So this is filled. Excuse me. C, an electrical engineer who was interviewed after Naira, but before SIPI, was who scored 93 in the written test. So after Naira, we have only 3 places, right? Where C can go, Charvi can go. And C was interviewed after Naira, but before CP. So there are 2 places for Charvi. Charvi cannot be at 12:30. Since we have 2 possibilities, let's leave it. Karthik scored the highest marks in the written test and came after Charvi. Now, if we combine both of these, Charvi should come after Naira and Charvi should come before Karthik and Sippy. So H and I together gives us the combination that Charvi was definitely at 11, right? And she's an electrical engineer. Do we have only one person with initial C? Yes. So we're done with Piku, Naira, Charvi. After Naira, but before CP, and scored 93. So Charvi scored 93 in the written test. Next, it's given Karthik scored the highest marks, so we don't know where to put Karthik, but he definitely came after Charvi. So right now we have a combination of S and K. How many S do we have? We have only one S and we have 2 Ks. So we will be writing down the entire name for Karthik. So this could be S and Karthik. And this could be Karthik or S. No idea about that. So, but wherever Karthik will go, he will get 108. So Karthik is going to get 108 over here, or if he's in the first position, he will get 108 over here. Okay. Next, let's repeat. Bharat is a mechanical engineer who scored 88 in the written test. Not helping. Next is Yanvi is a civil engineer who scored more than 100 but did not get the highest marks in the written test. Not going to help. We can conclude something. See, if Bharat gets 88, so right now let's look at what all scores have been taken and by whom. So if you look at Bharat, he gets 88. Naira gets 83. We know that Yanvi gets 103. We know that somebody got 78, right? We know that Charvi got 93. And if you look at the C statement, Yanvi's done. Do we have anybody with the same number? No. So 73 and 98, these 2 scores are still left, right? So P is going to get 73, 78 or 98. Any 3 could go to P. So there are 3 possibilities. Okay, let's leave this. Okay, let's use reverse logic. If S was interviewed at 12, then Charvi was interviewed at 11. So we have seen that part. Now, Since none of the mechanical engineers were interviewed at 9, and we have 4 mechanical engineers, so nobody was interviewed at 9. So we are left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mechanical engineers we can have, right? So mechanical engineer, we are done with 1, 3 more left. Electrical engineer, 2, we're done. We are done with it. We need a civil engineer and a computer engineer to be placed. Okay. What else do we know? CP, okay, F statement. S, a computer engineer was interviewed after 10:30. So wherever S will go, S is a computer engineer. So S is a computer engineer, or S is a computer engineer over here. That tells us for mechanical, we have how many places left? 1 is already taken, 2, 3, and one of the, I mean, wherever Karthik will go will be the mechanical engineer, so that all the 4 mechanical engineers are taken into account, because mechanical engineer can't be at 9, right? So the only person who is left is civil engineering. So I'm going to write civil E so that it doesn't clash with computer engineer. So 9 o'clock, it is civil engineer. Okay. We are done with statement E. We are done with statement F. Now, Bharat is a mechanical engineer who scored 88 in the written test. So Bharat can't be at 10. Bharat is not at 12 or 12:30. So the only place Bharat can go is 9:30. So Bharat is also taken. So he scored an 88. We're done with Bharat. Now, Yanvi is a civil engineer. Looking at statement C, we are pretty sure this is Yanvi, civil engineer, and she scored 103. The leftover person from all of those, Sippy is taken, Karthik is taken, Yanvi is taken. We are left with Khalid. So Khalid should be at 10 o'clock. Okay. Now, if we look at the scores, we are not sure about 73, 78, and 98. Right? These 3 scores are still left. So, do we have anything that will help us with it? 73, 78, and 98. Sorry, 78 is taken now. It's taken by Khalid. So 73 and 98 are missing. So this may be 73 or 78. And accordingly, this is going to be 78 or 73 and 78 or 73. So we're not sure about the score of P. Depending upon what P is going to score, S, which is CP, is going to score accordingly. So this is the final table that we are done with. Let's move over to the questions. So question number 5, whose interview was scheduled at 9 a.m.? So at 9 a.m., the schedule was that for Yanvi. We can very clearly see. Question number 6, the interviews for how many candidates were scheduled between Bharat's and Piku's interviews? So between Bharat and Piku's interview, there were a total of 3 candidates whose interviews were scheduled. So since this was a theta question, we had to type in 3. Question number 7, what would have been Piku's score in the written test if CP had scored 98? So if CP is going to score 98, okay, so this was 98 and not 73, 78, right? So this is a mistake. Okay, so if CP scored 98, that means Pico score is going to be 73. So we had to type in 73 because it was a theta question. What was the average of the scores obtained by the 4 mechanical engineers and the civil engineer in the written test? So we have civil engineer and the 4 mechanical engineers. So mechanical engineer has definitely got 108, which is Karthik. So we will have 103, 88, 78, 83, and 108. So we need to find the average of these. Well, if we remember this, these are in APs, right? 73, 78, 83, 88, 93, 98, 103, and 108. These were the 8 numbers, out of which we don't have a 73 over here, we don't have a 93, and we don't have a 98. So they will not follow a pattern, but we are pretty sure that the sum of these three will be 83 into 3. And sum of these two is going to be 211. And this is 249. So this is going to be 460. 460 divided by 5. So that should give us 92 as the average. Now, since this was a theta question, we had to type in 92. Question number 9. If CP was not the last one to be interviewed, so let me rectify this, 98. Then at what time was Karthik's interview scheduled? Well, if CP was not interviewed, CP was not the last one to interviewed, then definitely Karthik was the guy who was the last one to be interviewed. So this is going to be 12:30. Who scored 65% in the written test? Well, the total marks for the exam was 120. So all we need to do is calculate 65% of 120, which will result in 78. And who scored 78? 78 was, so this is 98, right? So 78 was scored by Khalid. So which will give us option A.